sports, all plays. 365, we making a plays. You talking the game, get you through the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety, topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. Hitting the airways, taking the nation. Sport, all plays, like working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. All sports, all plays.
And fellas, we are live and welcome to Real Talk, a show with great things going on here. We're going to get into some basketball, football, maybe some combat sports. We got a game going on right now. It's not looking good for Philly. It's seeming like the road might be coming to an end. So we'll definitely get into that as well. But fellas, first, how everybody feeling? How everybody doing?
What's happening? I'm feeling good, man. Feeling good on this good old Thursday, almost to the weekend. How you feeling, man?
I'm great. I'm great getting situated over here. Excited for the games tonight and excited for this conversation. Kenny, what about you, my man?
I'm doing all right. I'm feeling a little a type of way about these Sixers. I feel like my man Doc Rivers is coaching his last game. So I'm feeling a little type of way, but I'm ready to go.
You think the players are quitting on them, or is they just what are you thinking about? Why you say that?
I just think it's a combination of bad luck, guys not I don't know if it's quitting per se, but I just think they're out of gas. And then also just the way that they're going out is just really bad. And it's just now it's starting to become a trend. So I just think it's going to result in Doc Rivers losing his job.
Fair enough. I will say if that happens, which and yeah, I see it's now for 17. Should that happen, I don't think Doc is going to have a hard time getting a job, for better or for worse. So I think if you're him, it's kind of like whatever. He's managed finding good jobs and keep getting paid. So I don't know how invested he is in the success. Obviously, you want to win, but if I can go get a Lakers job or another job, then yeah. But we are not going to get to Philly yet. We'll keep track of this this potential blowout in the closeout game at home. It's definitely not a good look, but we'll keep you guys aware of that as it continues. But we got to start with an official blowout. The Golden State Warriors were down by, I believe it was 55 at one point, and ended up losing to the Ja Morant-less Memphis Grizzlies by 39 in a potential closeout game in Memphis. So the short question is, Devin, what the heck happened to the Golden State Warriors?
They ain't show up. You know what I mean? That point blank simple. They did not show up. What was the song? Whoop That Trick. You know what I mean? That's exactly what got happened. The trick got whooped yesterday, and it was all. It's all stated that during the season, the Grizzlies was not a bad team without Ja Morant. They was about 21-5 or 21-6, something in that nature, without Ja. So once again, if Golden State has a bad shooting night, the Grizzlies are a good enough team. They are coached good enough to catch a team slipping, either with Ja Morant or without Ja Morant. So Warriors didn't show up. You know what I mean? They must have stayed in the parking lot and said, "No, we'll wait till we go back to San Francisco to close this out."
So to that point, I want to follow up. The Draymond Green dance to whoop that trick when you're getting whooped, is that a sign of being lethargic, of being laissez-faire? Is that confidence? Like, how do you do that in that moment while the score is what it is?
When you get embarrassed, what's the best way to not feel embarrassed anymore? is to join the team that's embarrassing you. You might as well just go ahead and dance, celebrate with it. Because what else is do? You put your head down, walk off the court. We already know. We seen from the score that there was no signs of life for the Warriors that whole game. So you might as well just go ahead and vibe out with them and take your ass whooping like a man.
Fair enough. Kenny, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think if you're a Warriors fan, then you have to start to be concerned. Anytime you know in the playoffs. Well, first of all, the game before that, they really stole that game. You know, for being honest. So to go from still in the game that you basically trailed the entire game, and then the following game in a closeout with a chance to close out, you get beat by 50. That's like an AAU score. Like that's not something that happens all the time. In a league like that's the highest level of embarrassment. So to Devin's point, I guess you want to try to downplay it by yucking it up and laughing with the crowd or whatever. But if I'm in the locker room, like and I think it's based on your personality too, because Klay Thompson in his post game, he ain't looked too happy at all. He sounded pretty pissed off in his post game. So I guess it depends on the player. But it's going to be interesting. What I really want to see is what their response is, because now you're going home and you need to win this game 6. You do not want to go back to Memphis and have to win a game 7 on the road. So this is really going to show us what type of, if this is really a championship caliber team, the Golden State Warriors, how they respond at home in this game 6.
No, I agree. I definitely don't think you want to go back to game 7. I think we've seen this from, I guess you'll call them super teams in general. They get to this place where they just think, we got it. Jaws out for potentially the rest of the playoffs. We've won 2 really close games. The Grizzlies could have won this series by now. Like, if Ja Morant makes that layup in the first game,
Game 1, yeah.
and they don't come back in, game 4, like, the Grizzlies have been there all series, with or without Ja. So I don't completely understand the showboating nature of it. I mean, we've seen that out of this Warriors team. They've talked a lot, not feeling they got enough credit before Durant, even during Durant, and now after. So I get it, but even Steph gotten into the trash talking, and now Ja's talking back. So I need Steph Curry to be Steph Curry for once. I need him to go give us a Giannis performance. I need a Jimmy Butler. I need hey, we're not playing no more. Y'all are not in our league. We're going to put y'all away. And it would be great if Klay could come along for a ride. I don't know if those two have had a good game together all year. Mm-hmm. Like, they have the potential, but it's one or the other. Maybe Jordan Poole will come along with one or the other, but we have yet to see them just click. And I think
that injury with Gary Payton is kind of showing the experience of that bench now. Because now you're throwing in Lee, we haven't seen Lee since the middle of the season. You know what I mean? And then you can't really rely on Kuminga too much, because that was kind of Iggy role. So I just think that the injuries is really hurting the Warriors also, with some key players.
Mm.
I would also say I think Memphis finally, quote unquote, broke the code by crashing the boards. Like, they killed Golden State on the glass really for the first time in the series. And I feel like that's something they can do every game. Like, when they have Draymond playing the center and Clark and Jackson are out there and Adams is out there, there's no reason they aren't killing them on the boards. Now, none of them really have a post game, but you can still get a bunch of offensive rebounds on good shots. So I definitely think Steve Kerr has his work cut out for him. You don't want to start heading down the Doc Rivers path, because this would be a bad loss if they fool around and lose to this Memphis team without Ja Morant.
If they do, they're gonna blame it on Mike Brown before he leaves.
No, No. This definitely falls in Steve Kerr, and his Warriors team has got blown out a number of times. This isn't.
Oh yeah,
new.
but you gotta remember they got blown out when they had KD the year a couple years before they had KD. So the Warriors, this is not nothing new to them. You know, but I'm not saying that the Grizzlies are one of them past teams that blew them out before, because the Grizzlies is a young scrappy team. With or without Ja Morant, regardless, they kept that grit and grind from Paul Gasol and Zach Randolph and Mike Conley.
No doubt.
So we will definitely see. I think we'll see early. I think in the first 4 to 5 minutes, you'll know which Golden State team showed up. So hopefully they do get it done. But if not, hey, more power to Memphis. The longer they can go, the more likely we can get Ja back potentially. So I'm with it. Another team that in a turn of events blew a game, as far as I'm concerned, Boston Celtics. I have said it time and time again on this show. I am not sold on Boston, and last game is why. Just when you think they're ready to take that step, they don't. Marcus Smart fumbles it away. Jason Tatum, and for all intents and purposes, disappeared down the stretch. Jaylen Brown is Jaylen Brown. And Giannis and Bobby Portis and some of those boys, they figured it out. And Drew Holiday got it done. So my first question is, how much trouble is Boston now in losing at home? And can Boston win 2 in a row? I'll start with you, Kenny.
Boston's in big trouble. I think this series is over. I hear a lot of people talking about that Boston. They think Boston's going to go back and win Game 6. I don't see it. Like I think Giannis has that killer mentality. I don't think that there's any way he's gonna do whatever it takes, because if you think about it, that game, basically he was the one that kept them in that game until they made that run to take the lead. Like he was continually attacking, and he was playing downhill the entire game. So I think that's his mentality. He understands that his size and his length, that they have some physicality, but it's not deterring him from doing what he needs to do, and he's getting to the rim. And even he started hitting some threes in the fourth quarter. He hit some clutch threes in the fourth quarter. So I just think that I think this game is one of those when you look back and say that this is the game that changed the series, and I just think that they're done. And I think that Giannis, there's no way that Giannis is going to let them leave Milwaukee without a W.
Okay, Dev.
I'm gonna ride with Boston. I'm gonna be different. I don't think the series is over. I think Boston can pull it out. I'm one of them believers. I think Boston always has to stumble over themselves to figure out, like, damn, we could have actually won this game, to actually, it leads over to the next game. And I think this was one of those games that Boston should have won, could have won, had it in their hand, should have walked out the door with it. But, with the great defense of Drew Holiday, because he came out of nowhere. He made sure that Marcus Smart, who's not a true point guard, in my opinion, to say, like, you're not gonna have the ball in your hand. And that's where Jason Tatum should have been having the ball in his hand, or even Jaylen Brown, because Jaylen Brown was the one that got them cooking. And if they kept on riding that hand with Jaylen Brown, and then it goes back to Boston always want to say, all right, Jaylen, you had your 7 shots. Now it's Tatum to have his 7 shots, or somebody else got to come through, anything in that nature. And I honestly think Boston has the team to figure that out, to actually come through in this next game. And I think Giannis is hopefully can almost say he's gassed a little bit that Boston can steal this next game. But like Kenny said, Giannis is Giannis. It's really going to be hard to really steal that game from Giannis or anything in that nature. But I honestly think Boston can do it. It's just, they just going to have to not stumble over themselves. They're going to have to, those turnovers that Milwaukee was committing, you're going to have to really capitalize on them turnovers. Those free throws, that they had left on the floor, they're going to have to capitalize on those free throws. And hopefully, I don't know if Robert Williams is going to be able to play, but they need somebody down there that's going to grab board, because honestly, Al Horford down in the fourth quarter is not grabbing enough boards because he's getting outworked by Bobby Portis and whoever else is down in that paint. So they most definitely need a rebounder down there to most definitely get past Milwaukee.
Yeah, and I think the problem with Boston is, I'm sorry, real quick, Ray. I think the problem with Boston is that, you know, Giannis is really wearing those guys down. You could see the Grant Williams didn't give you anything last night. Al Horford didn't give you anything last night. I think they're expending a lot of energy on defense trying to slow down Giannis, and I think that's affecting them offensively. And they need those two. They need those guys to hit shots. They need the Peyton Pritchards. They need the Al Horfords. They need the Grant Williams to hit those shots so that it doesn't, you know, devolve into the, you know, the ISOs with Tatum and Jaylen Brown. So when those guys are not hitting shots, that's when their offense starts to break down. So I think that that's part of the problem. That's why I say that's why I'm concerned about them with all of the energy that they're putting out, trying to keep Giannis from getting to the basket, and it's affecting them offensively, and then they can't contribute and take some of that load off of Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum.
Agreed. Just real quick update. It's 17. What about 5.5 left? Looks like the Sixers are dead in the water. The fat lady is walking on stage, doing the sound check.
Yeah, I see people starting to head for the exit, so that's a bad sign.
Yeah, it's looking that way. But I think for me, one of the bigger takeaways, you guys have mentioned Giannis a couple times. And I'm a Giannis guy. Let me be clear. But I think what has gotten significantly overshadowed here is that Giannis missed a free throw that could have been critical. And because of Bobby Portis, Marcus Smart's kind of the bad goat in the situation. But Giannis did blow a free throw.
He got a couple of more plays that made him the GOAT. But go ahead.
I mean, you're right. But if he secures that rebound, the others that preceded that don't happen likely. But
that's they need a big man down there because, you know, no disrespect to Marcus Smart. Why is he down there trying to battle between Bobby Portis and whoever else down there?
He crashed from, I think, outside the perimeter. So he came in like as a hustle play. And it's almost like the onside kick in Green Bay. And you just blow it. Like he should have had it. I'm sure he's made that play, caught a rebound hundreds of thousands of times, and he just blew it, and it just happened to fall to Bobby Portis. But it's just been interesting that narrative, nobody's really talking about the fact that he blew that free throw, and that could have potentially ended their season. But they were able to overcome it, got it done. He did put up, I think, ended up being 40. So they get the dub. That's sometimes it's a game of inches. And that just is the way it turned out. But I agree. If I got two potential superstars or max players, they should have the ball down the stretch. Like, I don't care about all the other stuff. Jason Tatum, go get the ball. Like, that's a coaching issue. That's a player recognition issue. The ball should have been in his hand.
Yeah, it should have. But let me say this though. I think that was one, and especially in that situation with Marcus Smart taking that shot. I don't think he was the first option. I just think he broke open off of the first action. I think he was the first action, and then they were setting the down screen for for Jason Tatum to come after he cut through. So he was clearing. He was supposed to be clearing out, but he just broke open, and so they throw him the pass. But I think that play was designed to go to Jason Tatum. I just think that it was one of those things where he broke wide open, and to his, you know, let's not forget that if Jrue Holiday doesn't make a great play there, he has a layup. That's a layup.
Very true. Why part in the defense that we saw out of Jrue Holiday, any offensively, but for me, That's why I've said consistently, I think Drew Holiday is the second best player in Milwaukee, because on the defensive end, he's been a terror for Boston. And I think too often in the greatest player of all time conversations or MVP conversations, we don't value defense enough. We say we value it, but defense matters. And we're seeing it in these games that Steph had to make a play against Memphis to knock the ball out of Ja's hand. If you don't, you see the floater that he hits to beat you. So I definitely don't know if that's getting enough credit. I'll be curious to see how Phoenix comes out defensively tonight, because they've been up and down depending on if they're home or away. So definitely something to see there. Philly has got it back down to 11. So it's not over. Maxey almost got a steal in the backcourt. It looks like they reset the shot clock. I don't know if that was possession. I might be behind y'all.
No, I'm on the same.
It looked like Vincent initially lost it without being touched, but it ain't over yet. So yeah, Maxey touched it before it went out. Yeah. But and it looked like he pushed Maxey, to be honest. Could have been a loose ball foul that they didn't call. But Philly's on the 7-0 run with 1:40 left. And to our first point about Golden State, I was scrolling and saw a stat that said minutes leading this series, Grizzlies 182, Warriors 58. So although Golden State is winning, Memphis has been up the majority of the series by a pretty large margin, especially when you look at the last game where they led from start to finish. So definitely got some good games coming on tomorrow, and we still have one more tonight as this one's about to wrap up. So it looks like Miami is going to finish Philly off, barring a collapse, which we have seen in the playoffs. But if you guys had to pick, do you see both teams closing it out tonight, or will Philly or Dallas survive? I'll start with you, Dev.
I see both teams closing it out. I really don't see the Sixers coming back. I think their season's in the wraps. Dallas, I don't really see them coming back either. I think Phoenix had got real physical with them, and I don't think Dallas really liked that. Most definitely, Luka most definitely not taking exception to how Devin Booker, smacked the ball out of his hand and, called them a name and all that good shit. And so, I think that also plays in the favor of Phoenix because, like I said before, if you get in the Luka head and get him frustrated, Luka is not really giving you his best game. He's doing more whining, busting up and down, or getting into foul trouble. And if that plays in the Phoenix hands, I think that can solidify Dallas' season right there. And honestly, if Chris Paul can really at least average 15, because the single digits is not really cutting it for Phoenix. But if Chris Paul can at least average 15 and actually be the floor general that he actually is, and Devin Booker, he's going to put up his shots, and Devin Booker is going to score, and he have a good supporting cast, then Dallas have no answer for Phoenix, in my opinion. Especially if Aiden can take over down in the block. That's an if.
Okay.
Get the ball too.
So I do want to follow up because you did mention the great Chris Paul. Obviously, this is his first time back since the incident with his mom and wife. Do you think he comes out more aggressive than normal? Because we've seen typically he takes it pretty easy for the first half, maybe the first 3 quarters, and then turns it up. Do you think he comes out more aggressive given the incident that happened last time he was in Dallas?
I think he should. I think that should be in the Suns' game plan to let Dallas know that it's not affecting him. Because if Chris Paul keep playing in Devin Booker's shadow, it's not saying that's not a bad shadow to be playing in, but the more if Chris Paul keep hiding and not inserting himself into the offense, then you hurting the Suns more than you really feel in Dallas, in my opinion.
Okay. Kenny, your thoughts?
I think Dallas wins this game. I think it's going to go 7. Dallas just plays so much better. They're the kind of the tale of two teams in terms of being at home and on the road. especially with their role players. Like those guys play so much better. The Dorian Finney-Smiths of the world and the Cleavers and those type of guys. They seem to play a whole lot better at home. So I think they're going to knock down shots. Even Jalen Brunson seems to have better games at home than he does on the road. It seems like. So I just think that they're going to be high energy. I think they're going to. They're going to win this game. I think they're going to pull it out. And also, I think that to Devin's point, I think that with Chris Paul, I think at his age, it's one of those things where he's got to conserve energy. So I don't, it's going to be some games where you know what you're going to get from him assist-wise, but I don't know if he's capable of getting those high, those 15, 20, 25-point games on a consistent basis. So I think you're going to have those games where he's going to, really be a facilitator, and then those games where he's going to be a facilitator and be aggressive. But I don't think he can do both on a consistent basis. So that's why I think that I think he will be aggressive tonight. I think we'll see him be aggressive tonight, and we'll get that game. But I think that Dallas wins a close one.
Okay. And you think, and if it's a close game with Chris Paul, Devin Booker, and Luke, you think Dallas wins a close game?
Yeah, I'm just going off a home court advantage. I think that you get the role players knocking down shots, and and then you got Luka that's going to make the winning plays down the stretch, and then Jalen Brunson to have his moments as well.
All right, so quick question though: what if the supporting cast show up, but Luka don't show up, or vice versa? Do you still think they pull it out?
No. I think you have to have. For Dallas, you have to have Luka in the 20s. You have to have Jalen Brunson giving you 18 to high teens and low 20s. And then you got to get one of those role players to give you something in terms of double figures, whether it's Finney-Smith, whether it's Cleaver, even Reggie Bullock. So you need both of those guys to give you – no, let me take that back. You need both of those guys, Jalen Brunson and Luka, to give you over 20 in order for them to win. Because I don't know what happened to Ray's guy, Spencer Dinwiddie, but he's been a no-show this entire series. So you can't really expect anything from him.
I mean, there's no surprise there.
I just set you up.
Yeah, I mean, that's why Brooklyn let him go. That's why Washington let him go or traded him. We didn't trade him for much either, but we'll see. Hopefully we get the lottery is coming up. Hopefully the balls will, or the code or whatever they do now, it'll go our way. We could definitely use some help in that realm. So a lot to see. I agree. Obviously the Miami game's done at this point. The bums are in. Yeah. So I agree. I think what we've seen consistently, and I don't really know how to explain. I guess this is a follow-up question. Basketball players are the best in the world. They're the best of the best. But it is blatantly obvious that some players just play significantly better at home versus on the road. And it's all teams. We've seen it in role players only come to work seemingly on home games. And I don't understand how these phenomenal professional athletes can go so hot or so cold depending on what gym they're in. So I think for that reason, we've seen Mikal Bridges look absolutely awful in Dallas. Campaign, I think, got a DNP the other night. Like, I don't understand what happens to these people. This was a home game and James Harden didn't show up, but he's James Harden, so that's not terribly surprising. It's just it's a lot.
Man like that, man. Golly.
I mean, he's James Harden. And I think what we saw this year, as of now, is the biggest flop of a trade we've ever seen. I've never seen two bigger people traded that have so little impact on both teams. Like, the Brooklyn obviously got swept in the first round, so they didn't benefit much. Philly, had Embiid not come back, they would have got swept. Like, the coach, both coaches might get fired. Quiet as it's kept. Like, I just don't know what to think. So tonight, if Cam Johnson and Jay Crowder, who hurt his shoulder, so you don't know what he's going to give you. Granted, he don't give you a ton of offense anyway. Ayton is hit or miss, game in and game out. Like, I don't know what to expect. I'm thinking Dallas will play better. Dorian Finney-Smith might hit 8 threes again, or he might give you 8 points. You never know. You never know. So hopefully it is a good game, but we would definitely be watching and see what happens going forward. So that does bring me to, and I know I've mentioned Phoenix and Chris Paul. You guys have said he should and probably will come out aggressive. Do you guys believe, whether it's Memphis, Golden State, or whoever they play, Phoenix can win the ring with an average CP3? Kenny, I'll start with you.
I don't know. I don't think they can win with an average. I think they have to win with I think the better term is consistent. Like, he's got to be that facilitator. As long as he's giving you those double-figure assists, then I think that they can win with him. If he's not scoring and he's not giving you assists, then there's no way that they can win. Because all the, especially those guys, the Mikal Bridges of the world, the DeAndre Aytons, Jay Crowder, Cam Johnson, all of those guys they get their looks based off of, a lot of times off of CP's penetration, off of Devin Booker's penetration. So I think he has to be a facilitator on a consistent basis in order for them to win. You're muted, Ray.
You're muted.
I was going to say the other thing that's been surprising for me with Chris Paul is the turnovers. I think there's a formula that can work, and I think Bullock is going to be on him from start to finish. And I think if you hound him, you can take something out of him to end the game. So I think that resume and recipe is out there. I'll be curious to see how Jason Kidd attacks him. But no, I definitely think you're right. And just to John's question, I don't know. Does anybody know how many years Doc has left on his deal, or is this the last year of his deal? Does anybody know?
No, I would assume it's a 4-year deal. I can look it up, but I'm at least a 4-year deal.
I think he at least got about 2 more years left.
Yeah.
There.
Okay. So if he has that much time, I might see them running it back one more time with the healthy roster from the beginning of the year. Clearly, I believe Embiid's face bothered him. He was not nearly as aggressive to me going to the basket, shot a lot less free throws the last couple games because I think he was playing a much more perimeter game. He was very inefficient tonight.
He got 2 more years. I just looked it up.
2 more. All right. So I think they would give him another year unless the Lakers call or unless he goes to them and say, hey, I'm not the right fit for this group. I will be curious to know how these post-game news conferences go, because last year they ran off the second best player. So we'll see what Doc and Embiid have to say. If Embiid has something negative to say about Doc, that also would be pretty negative. So we will see here. I don't have the sound on, but I'm sure it'll play by our Monday episode if anything great.
I think the Sixers really need a wing player to actually get over the hump.
Tobias Harris.
Tobias Harris, I don't know if he don't fit in Doc Rivers' system because he didn't show up in the Clippers really, and he ain't showing up with the Sixers. So, and if you bring Maxey into your starting lineup, now your bench is kind of hurt because you don't have no firepower coming off the bench. So I think the Sixers need a true wing player if you're going to move James Harden to your point guard role. And they most definitely going to have to solidify that bench again.
I'm not sure if it's Tobias Harris. I think you have to see them all play together for a full season. I think you get the Sixers, you got to at least run it back one more year with James Harden, especially after you made this trade. I think you have to give them a full season together for them all to figure it out, because I think they had to figure that out on the fly and try to figure out roles, because Tobias Harris, before James Harden got there, he was putting up at least 18, 19, 20 points a game. I know I had him in fantasy, and he was steady. He was steady Eddie in terms of his output. And then when James Harden came there, it diminished his role some, and then Maxey started to surge some as well. So I think they're going to have to take time to really figure out their roles and going forward. But the problem is, to me, is that, to Ray's point about this trade, like, you traded for James Harden, and now we're not sure if he's still an elite player. Like, there's a question, like, you could literally say that after Joel Embiid, you could make a case that Tyrese Maxey is the second best player on that team. Like, so, and you didn't trade for James Harden for Tyrese Maxey because you could have kept the team as it was. Like, you didn't bring James Harden in for Tyrese Maxey to be the second best player. You brought James Harden in to, put him with Joel Embiid, and because early on everybody was talking about this could be the best. This could be the best combination since Kobe and Shaq, in those first few games. But there's questions now whether or not James Harden is still an elite player. And you have to ask those questions based on his output in these last two games. Like, it was a no-show.
Yeah, I just saw the stats they put up. James Harden was 0 of 2. 0 of 2 from 3, 0 of 2 overall in the second half of a closeout game at home. Like, you can't shoot twice. You can't shoot twice in a closeout game at home and end with 11. So
nah, you can't.
I've been a James Harden playoff defender, thinking some of the criticism I thought was a little excessive. You can't defend this. Clearly, Embiid's not himself. Clearly, Harris, they've been trying to move him. This is an opportunity for you to step up and be James Harden. And this is what you do. Like, I think even if Brooklyn or Philly wanted to, and John, they did. I saw Milton play a lot more, and he gave him like 7 or 9, I think, in the third quarter.
Yeah. But Milton not consistent enough, though.
Exactly, and he made some defensive lapses. That's down the street. He was making a comeback. He had a couple of defensive lapses I was watching, and that cost him baskets. So I think that's part of the reason why he wasn't getting the minutes, why Doc wasn't using him.
Which I agree, but at least he's giving you something on offense. It ain't like James was locking anything down. And I think the other part to the trade we were talking about is it's almost the two people are almost untradeable. You can't trade Simmons because nobody knows when he's going to play. I think Brooklyn's going to have to hold that sucker bag of mental health and back pain. And then we were talking about Russell Westbrook. Nobody wanting that deal. James Harden deal ain't much better. So I don't know. And from the rumors have it that Houston has an open trade standing with LA for John Wall, and if they'll send Russ in the first. I feel like if I'm Houston, maybe I start calling Philly and see if I can give you John Wall and you give me Harden in the first. Bring Harden back to Houston.
James Harden not going back.
James Harden loves Houston.
But he's not. They don't have no opportunity to win. And
James don't care about winning. Did you watch these games in the playoffs?
Yeah,
James
but
care about winning. James want to party and make money.
I'd rather you send Harden down there to Washington. You know what I mean? And
you said send him where?
Huh?
Send him where?
Send him to Washington.
No. What do you mean?
Well, I mean, that's where careers go to die. So, I mean,
hold up. John Wall thrived in Washington. Bradley Beal was thriving in Washington until Russ came along. and then we made
Now let me take that back. My uncle would kill me.
we made a bunch of bad decisions.
Yeah, don't feel bad either, Kenny. I can't say too much here. I'm only right down the street from Washington.
Hey,
Don't get me started on Baltimore and all that they are.
And we don't even have a basketball team, so I can go ahead and jump shit wherever I want. Just like no.
But yeah, and I did hear the Atlanta rumor, but I don't
Atlanta.
I don't see why
for Ben Simmons.
I don't see how he fits. Trey dominates the ball. They need shooters. Like I don't think
that ain't gonna work. That's gonna be like that would just you just want clout or something. I don't know. You just want a street clothes guy on your bench.
Question though, I just had a thought about James Harden. Do you think that this is another one of those cases where he pulled a number to get Doc fired? Because if we look, and this has kind of been his pattern, like he wanted to get out of Houston, so he came in out of shape. He wanted to get out of Brooklyn, so he faked an injury. So now he wants, he got to Houston, he got to Philly, got to his guy Daryl Morey, and maybe he wants to bring back his guy Mike D'Antoni. Do you think that he kind of 1, 2, 3 Cancun'd it to get Doc out of there?
I don't think so.
I don't think it. I think he 1, 2, 3 Cancun'd it. I don't think it was because of Doc. I think maybe Lil Baby and Chris Brown is about to go on tour. And so he might want to go on tour with them. And they're coming to DC. I'll be there. So I might see James there because clearly there's more things on his mind. He see LeBron on vacation. He see KD on vacation. He see Kyrie live streaming, talking trash. And he like, why am I out here? What am I doing? I got my money. Let me go and get out of here. Doc's gone. Me and Joel ain't getting along because I don't think Embiid's happy with his play. And I'm going to chill.
I think Embiid is not happy because he ain't win MVP.
Rightfully so. I'd be pissed.
No.
And so that because what happens with that and long view is when we look back at this era, and I do this. So, and now I'll say this. When we talk about Chris Paul, I compare him to someone like Steve Nash. And I go to Steve Nash got 2 MVPs. Chris Paul has none. Neither has any rings. So I lean Steve Nash. When you look at the history of big men, it's going to be really hard to put Embiid ahead of Jokic with 2 MVPs to none, especially if neither one ends up winning a championship. So when you start talking legacy, I think Embiid has to fill away. And I would imagine if Embiid's the if Jokic is the MVP, he's going to be winning the first team All-NBAs. Embiid's going to be second team All-NBA. So I think it's bigger than just the MVP. I think when you look at how history will look back at this time frame, Jokic is going to be probably viewed as the best big man of this era, and Embiid's going to have to eat that. And I don't think that's true. I think Embiid is a better all-around big man. But
if he wins if he would have won a championship, see, this is my problem with that. Like, I don't even. You just won at home. You just won a big game at home, and you have opportunity to go up 3-2 and go back home and have a chance to close out the series. So, like, to me, that should be out of your mind. Like, you got to focus on the task at hand, because what's bigger for your legacy, a championship or MVPs?
I think it depends on the player. Because I think there's a lot of players that got championships that we don't view as great.
Agreed, but I think that's the separator though for great players is when you talk about great players. The separator for the guys that they, that's the one that's greater than the other is usually the ring count.
I agree, but I don't.
So speaking of that, do you think
he's going to win a title anytime soon? Because I don't.
No.
I don't. I'm not sure about those pieces, the way they all fit together. So I definitely have questions about it. But like I said, to me, like if you think that if I'm Embiid and I think that I have the right pieces around me, if I think I'm the most dominant player, like I'm going to win a championship. Like that's what's going to shut all these guys up. That's what I'm putting in your face. Y'all can have this MVP, but I got this ring on my finger. At least that's what my mentality would be.
Yeah, no doubt. I think the championship is more valuable than the MVP. But the way both teams is constructed, they're not championship ready team. Philly is not gonna, even if Philly would have got past Miami, they still would have had to go against Boston or Milwaukee. Still got a juggernaut. And if Denver would have got past who did they get bumped out by?
Golden State.
Yeah, Golden State. Even if they didn't meet up to Golden State, they still had a scrappy New Orleans team. You got a scrappy Memphis team also. So either way, both teams, the way they constructed, I believe that even if the Nuggets and the Pelicans would have had matched up, I kind of would have sided with the Pelicans. Just by a little bit, just because their talent, and I don't believe that the Nuggets had guards that play CJ McCollum or Brandon Ingram. So I just think that their teams are not constructed to win a championship. So it will be hard for either team to come out their conference. So I believe MVP is more valuable to them, as of right now, as they can just see as their teams is constructed around them.
I think when you look at both teams, but more Philly than Denver, they might be headed to a rebuild. Like they may have to blow up Philly, Harden, Harris, Doc, and
that's going to happen because how long this process been cooking?
It's been processing for a long time. You know what happens? You leave that perm in too long, stuff start burning.
It start falling out.
So I think we're gonna start seeing some pieces fall out as the front office looks to kind of figure out what do we do. We did the most that we could, and this is what we've got out of it. So
damn, Kenny fell out. Look at
it. Yeah, he must have had that perm on or something. And Damien, I've seen this comment. I wasn't gonna post it, but I'm gonna do the right thing as the moderator here and post this. But that's blasphemy, and that's not true. Those days are long gone. And Carson Wentz was already trash. He's not gonna die with us. He already died. So I'm not taking any of that nonsense you just spewed. I also do not see the Pelicans as a contender, even with Zion. I think they'll be okay, but I don't even know that he fits with the new direction they're going, per se. So I'm not convinced on that part yet.
No, I don't think Zion gonna last down in New Orleans too long, in my opinion. I think he's gonna wind up being like AD and wants to be out. So I almost that because the way it's building, I can see Zion playing in that system. But I can see Zion. They will have trouble like how Boston was. 1 minute it's your turn, then it's my turn, then it's Zion's turn. So I think if they can figure out how they can add Zion to that mix, that ISO ball, then it could fit.
And I think the thing with Zion is he's not someone you necessarily got to run plays for. He's actually a super talented hustle player, really.
Right.
Draymond-esque in that, but he finishes at a supremely high percent.
Like a Sean Kemp.
Yeah, that's a good comp. I'll go with that. I think might be a better ball handler than Kemp, but similar.
Not a better shooter.
Not yet.
Yeah, not yet, but pretty much his game is kind of based, in my opinion, like a Sean Kemp.
Yeah. So potentially, we'll have some coaching moves coming up. One team is interviewing everybody. Anybody on this show might get an interview for the Lakers job at this rate.
I got my interview next Wednesday.
Okay.
Jeannie Buss already hit me up. She said Phil Jackson said I was a good candidate.
There you go. So no, I think and I'm sorry, I just gotta address this. First off, Ryan Fitzpatrick has been on like 15 teams. So that's not a Washington issue. He couldn't stay healthy. Tyler Heineke, the man, and RG3 just couldn't keep his mouth shut. I don't think Shanahan did him a favor drafting Cousins in the same draft, but had he just shut up and recovered, I think his career would have been different. So
he just ran across that 4-1-0. That's all it was. That's what ended RG3 career.
Nada did it. And actually Seattle did it. Well, the field did it. And then Nada just put it out of his misery. But he's good on TV. So congratulations.
And then they tried to throw him out there to the wolves the next week. Say he's fine. The next thing you know, my man was on the gimp leg. He looked like Gumby out there.
Never was the same, but he talks great. So I do like him on TV.
Good personality. Good TV personality.
But speaking of the Lakers, a lot of options. I think you can kind of have your pick to a certain extent. Who should coach the Lakers, Devin?
It's kind of hard to really pick right now. Because you don't know if Doc gonna come available. You don't know if any other coaches are gonna come available. I know Doc is like the top candidate in my priority. I did wanted Mark Jackson, but I don't think Mark Jackson will, as y'all stated last time, Mark Jackson not really a good fit for that team. And with Phil Jackson overseeing everything, I don't think he's going to even look Mark Jackson way. I really don't know right now. It's really hard to say, because even what coach you pick, you still got to worry about the roster, and that roster is not going to change unless you find somewhere you can find some money in some cookie jars somewhere, because with AD, Russ, and LeBron taking bulk of their salary, it's going to be kind of hard to build a team, whatever star you even think about keeping, really, whether it's AD and Russ, or LeBron and AD, or whoever you try to keep. It's still going to be kind of hard to build with those three contracts around. And whatever coach you bring in, if you don't have a good bench to support those three, you're still not going to win. You're still going to have a struggling time, and Jeannie Buss is still going to be upset, and Phil Jackson is going to get the blame, and then Kurt Rambis is going to come out the bushes saying, "I told y'all," So then Magic Johnson is going to be like, "I told you I got out of there quick." Then they're going to point the finger at Rob Pelinka. So it's just going to be a mess. They just need to figure out who should be able to pick coaches, number one, and who should. That's where the Lakers need to start.
So that's a good point, and I do want to follow up to that, because you obviously superstars should have an input on who's going to coach them. The problem in LA is Phil wants LeBron traded, other people want AD traded, and a bunch of people want Russ traded. So which superstar do you even talk to? Because which superstar is going to be there at the start of next year?
You would talk to AD and LeBron. No disrespect to Russ, but you started your championship run with LeBron and AD. Mm-hmm. And you pretty much trying to build the team after LeBron that AD hopefully stay there. So if you can have those two on the same page, because I'm pretty sure once LeBron retires or something in that nature, he's going to still have a say-so in some organization, whether it's going to be Cleveland, whether it's still going to be with LA, he's still going to have some type of say-so, some type of power in some type of organization. So
it won't be LA.
It's about why not? They got Phil Jackson, Kurt Rambis, you got all these other people.
Just another voice to add to the point.
Yeah, they need to go ahead.
Phil and LeBron don't like each other. That's clear. So I don't know how we currently work.
We talking about a guy that drafted Frank. I can't even pronounce it. Remember his last name, and he fell asleep on that man pro day or something he was doing.
But here's the reason. Here's the real reason I say that. LA's never loved LeBron like that. I think
because they weren't about the second coming of Kobe. You know,
but that's not going anywhere.
and but Kobe is never going to walk through that door again.
And
we would never have that 18-year-old superstar drafted and
But
keep
if you
him
think
20-something years.
LeBron is going to be working next to Phil and next to Rob, who's a Kobe guy, that those three are not working together. That
Phil should not. I don't think Phil has a check that has his name from the Laker organization. So how is he even in the mix?
So what I
Well, you know
will
why
say this.
Well, we know why he in the mix. He in the mix of something else.
If you can trade LeBron for another superstar, and I think there's maybe 3 people, maybe 4, that you can't trade LeBron for. Most anybody else would be available for LeBron. Phil has a history of coaching superstars and having success. So to his point, if he can trade LeBron, and Damian said it, if Phil gets the type of players he wants, maybe that's one less person in Genie's ear.
Are you saying that Phil's coaching the Lakers?
Phil come back and coach the Lakers. Trade
That
LeBron.
man couldn't even stay awake for a workout. You saying he gonna make it through the whole season?
I'm just saying.
Y'all gotta remember that man couldn't even make it through the whole season when he was still coaching the Lakers. He had to miss games because of his back and the chairs wasn't right for him. And
time off. We got new modern.
He ain't got no younger.
Man,
he
look,
can take Advil or something.
Look.
Shaq send him some icy hot.
Look, it's not. If Phil coaches the Lakers this year, I'm gonna go here on the record and say this while we live. I would not watch no Laker game. I'm gonna just go. I'm gonna still be a Laker fan, but I will not watch no Laker. I will only check their stats on ESPN or anything in that nature.
Why do you hate Phil? Why do you hate Phil?
I don't hate Phil, but I just don't understand. How can you walk down Washington State of Washington Arena and say, "Hey guys, let me help you pick your next coach"? Can anybody?
Yeah,
nobody.
So if you trade LeBron for Kyrie and you fix that problem, and you have Kyrie, AD, you move Russ somewhere because you got Russ and Kyrie can't play together. You move Russ. You build around AD and Kyrie.
That's a lot of moving parts.
That's a lot.
And Phil's offense, those two can work in that triangle offense.
Not really. But you gotta think Kyrie is not really a passing guard. He's a scoring guard. You still gonna have to find another point. He's still gonna have to find another Derek Fisher.
Not no great point guard.
You're gonna have to find that means you would have to find a Derek Fisher. And there's
Kyrie's
not
way
that
better than Derek Fisher.
You said who?
Kyrie's way better than Derek Fisher.
I understand it, but Kyrie is not your typical point guard. Kyrie can go ISO ball. You think that's gonna help AD out? The only way that's going to help AD, the only way it's going to help AD out, since AD like to roam the floor and roam to be out in the 3-point line, that's the only way it's going to help him out, because now it's going to be so much attention on Kyrie. But you still not going to make it out the West with that, because you still got to come against a scrappy Memphis team. You still got to come against a Golden State. You're not making out the West. You might can beat Utah. Or Minnesota.
Minnesota's coming. But Karl Anthony Towns might become available. He might be sick of the small market.
I don't want him.
Well, I think to answer your question,
you don't want him. I trade AD for Cat today.
Don't get me wrong. Cat is a top 5 big man, but he whines way too much.
What big man don't?
Embiid don't whine too much. Not as much as the Cat. Look, go back to that Memphis game. Go back.
They be crying.
Yeah. Look how much whining the Cat did throughout the game 1 through 3. He did more whining than he did scoring.
But that's the whole.
But he was out there.
Now that's the
He
whole.
was in foul trouble.
Everybody, that's the whole. It's not bigs. That's not just bigs. That's the whole league. Like everybody is trying to. Everybody's trying to get fouled. You don't see guys trying to play through contact. You see guys trying to manipulate calls and trying to get to the foul line. Guys don't play through contact anymore. Everybody, you should just watch. Anybody that goes to the basket, soon as they go up, if they go to the basket, they get touched in any way, they're throwing their hands up in the air, looking for a call. They're not trying to finish the play. So that's throughout the league.
That's because the league is soft. We had talked about this like a couple episodes ago.
Yeah.
It just soft. When they run that challenge and you can review plays and all that stuff, that's when the league started. That's when, like what Kenny said, everybody throwing hands up. You want to flop now.
Yeah, everybody's playing for calls.
Everybody's an actor now.
Let me chime in on this coach thing. I think it's two people that I would like to see them consider for the job. One you already talked about is Mark Jackson. The other one that I would want to see them be considered is Sam Cassell. I think you need a strong voice. I think you need somebody that has the resume and a cachet to be able to get in these guys and hold them accountable. Like you got to have somebody that has that's been in the league, that's well respected, that these guys are going to look at and say, they're not going to look at them sideways. I'm not going to look at a Mark Jackson sideways if I'm getting in LeBron, if I'm getting in Russ, if I'm getting in AD, because he's been in the league. He has a resume. He has, he's accomplished something in this league. I'm not going to look sideways at Sam Cassell if I'm digging, if Sam Cassell is digging in me, because he has championship rings. He has a resume.
Coach though.
I'm just saying that you got to have a strong voice.
I think Sam Cassell should be considered also.
You got to have a strong voice of somebody that you're going to to me they walked over Frank Vogel.
I agree with the strong voice, but Vogel had a successful history too. I don't think a first year coach, I don't care how respected. Frank Vogel had some runs in Indy, like.
Yeah, but then he got out coached by Eric Spoelstra in the Heat, though.
That's not saying that's okay. Spoelstra's a great coach,
but I'm saying players respect players, though.
I think Vogel is only as strong as his assistant coach. If Vogel don't have solid assistant coaches, Vogel is not a good head coach in my opinion. Once Jason Kidd,
exactly.
Once Jason Kidd and Lionel Hollins left,
my point. That was the buffer that. You had the buffer in Jason Kidd to be able to hold those guys accountable. And, when you see them start going off the reservation, even a guy like a Rondo, you had another guy in there, the voice in the locker room to be able to hold these guys accountable. And I think that's what you have to have. Like, you got to have a strong voice. Like, I'm sorry, no disrespect. Terry Stotts is not going to do it. And them other candidates that they talk about, that's not going to do it. You need a really strong voice. Especially with veterans, too. With veterans, that's another thing. We got veterans and you got stars. Like, these guys are set in their ways. And the only way you're going to get there, get them to change is you got to get somebody that's been there and done that.
And these aren't just veterans. This is LeBron. Like,
that's what I'm saying.
He's not just a veteran. Like, he ain't David West or Al Horford. Like, he a little different.
No, I understood.
I hear you. It will – they better get it right. I tell you that. And it's a whole lot of people with input, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, to me, I don't see it. I don't see them getting it right, because how do you come to a consensus when you got all of these voices that are chiming in and giving their opinion? Like Jeannie says that she's a collaborator, but then you got Magic, you got Phil, you got Rambis, you got Kalinka. So that's what, 4 and Jeannie and whoever else is in the front office. So that's 5 or 6 voices that you got to all come to a consensus about one guy. Like, that's hard.
I definitely agree with the difficulty, but no. I don't think any of the TNT crew would go near a coaching job. I think they have one of the best jobs on TV. So
yeah, he's not coaching the Lakers.
Luka just shot from Fort Worth. He came up short. Just quick update. Dallas is up 1 with a little under 2 minutes left, 24-23. Relatively low scoring game. I think it's been more so just poor shooting versus great defense. But so far Bridges with a tough shot came up short. But it's definitely still competitive. So we'll definitely keep you abreast of how this evolves. And speaking of actually someone in this game, max players. Zion has said that he will sign his max deal. Like I don't. When you have an injury history, what else you want to say?
Right.
Russ will opt in, I'm sure, for the last year of his deal, 40-something million. He'd be an idiot not to. You don't want to Victor Oladipo it. But there is Kyrie Irving, who they've said ownership has come out and been somewhat critical. We want people here that want to be here, and we need to know that you're committed for the long term. I can imagine that those are comments that Kyrie is not going to receive well based on the Kyrie I know. So if you have Kyrie and you have DeAndre Ayton, who of those two, if any, and Dinwiddie hits a three, a once in a lifetime, who do you give the max deal to? One, both, or neither? I'll start with you, Devin.
I'm gonna go with Aiden. I would love to see Kyrie to get a max deal, but if we're going to actually talking about youth and I guess you can say ready to be ready for season, if the COVID restrictions was able to kick back off, then the safe option would be Aiden. Like I said, I don't really believe into what Sean Mark said. I believe that that if you how can you say we with the guy with Kyrie and whatever decision he makes during the season, and now that the season is over with, you saying, "Oh, we need guys that's ready." You gotta pick one. You either support what he's doing, or you're not going to support what he's doing. And like I said, I understand it's a business, and Kyrie chose his business approach. So it wouldn't be bad if y'all say, all right, we don't want Kyrie no more, and we're gonna move on, and such and such. I do believe Kyrie can get a max deal somewhere. I don't think it's going to be Brooklyn, though. But I think the safe bet, I think Aiden, because of his age, he's not a bad big man. I believe as long as you have a guard that's have good vision like Chris Paul, anything in that nature, he's successful. Yeah, he do need have some work. He need to learn how to shoot maybe about 15 footers, maybe a little bit on a consistent basis. I don't think he had to really touch the 3-point. But if he can be consistent in scoring and dominating the paint, Aiden wouldn't be a bad max pick. But I think Aiden will get a max deal before Kyrie.
Okay. Real quick, I do want to jump in because we talked about Chris Paul this game and how aggressive would he come out. Just to update everyone, Chris Paul played 8 minutes. He had 0 points, 0.6 assists, 0 rebounds, 0 shot attempts, and a turnover. So that's the aggressive Chris Paul in this game. And Dallas is currently up 2. Kenny, your thoughts? Or who's the next deal?
I think they both will. I think they both will end up getting a max deal. I think
with their teams or with different teams.
With their teams, I think to Devin. Well, no. Let me say this. Let me back up. I would say Ayton is going to get a max deal with Phoenix. If he doesn't get it with Phoenix, I'm not sure if he's going to get with another team. The reason I say that is because of the way that the game is played now. I think that bigs are not as valued as they were. Kind of like the running back situation in the NFL, where the offense is more spread. You got these 5-out offenses where you want the big to space out to the perimeter and keep driving lanes open and things of that nature and be able to face up and score. I think if it's not Phoenix, I'm not sure if he gets a max deal anywhere else. In terms of Kyrie, I think that they realize that, and of course, I'll put the disclaimer out there that Kyrie is family, so of course, I'm a little biased. So, but at the end of the day, I think it's one of those things where if you're Brooklyn, you brought Kyrie and you brought Kevin Durant in together. And the reason why they were there was because they wanted to play together. It could have been, and it could have been with any team. Let's be clear. It could have been with any team that this situation could have happened, but those guys wanted to play together. And now let me take that back. Kyrie wanted to be home. So that's the reason why they're there in Brooklyn. And Cade, they wanted to play together. So that's why that happened. So, but I think what Brooklyn is saying, and, I can kind of understand where they're coming from in terms of them wanting a commitment from Kyrie. But I think a lot of times that I think we got to really take a look at this and really, kind of stop with this narrative that we're promoting, like like the Stephen A. Smiths of the world talking about that he doesn't want to work. Like, let's look back at this whole thing. Like, if you go back, he was talking about, when this whole, George Floyd and all of the protests and all of that situation was going on, he was doing something to where he was talking about doing something to initiate great change, to initiate racial, to speak to racial injustice. And we saw as a result that the Milwaukee Bucks protested and sat out a game as a result of what happened in that situation in Milwaukee. So he was talking about a bigger picture in terms of why he was trying to, when they were talking about not coming back to the bubble. So that's one thing. Then the second thing is that we're talking about here this situation with the COVID. Like, if he's in any other city besides New York, he would have been able to play. So let's not act like this is a situation where he doesn't want to play or he doesn't want to come to work. These are two, unique circumstances, or these are two out of the ordinary circumstances. And the other thing where the Capitals, or whatever the case was, that he was, he had an issue with, like, these are things that are bigger than basketball. Like, he was trying to the statements that he was making was something bigger than basketball. So let's not act like he was just doing this to get out of work. So I just think we got to stop with that narrative. And then the other thing, and then finally I'll say this, is that Kyrie is a hooper. And he's a baller. So this is the season that if you're, if you're going to say that he doesn't want to play, then this is the season that you can say that, with all the COVID restrictions, everything is out the way. There's nothing holding him back from being able to play. Now this is the situation, because now they just got knocked off. They got swept in the first round. Now this is the season where they got to answer their questions. And I don't think that there's any question in terms of their commitment to basketball. And this is going to be proven in this next season. So I think that while they were saying that, I think they were trying to, quote unquote, send a message. But I don't think that was a message that needed to be sent, because this next season, they already know that the pressure's on, that they got to produce. So they're going to, put their best foot forward, because they both want to win championships at the end of the day. And they want to submit their legacy as being able to win championships. Both of them in the same boat, that they want to win championships outside of the shadow of the teams that they won the previous championships with. There was questions with Kyrie, Kyrie being the second fiddle to LeBron. There was questions about KD being the second fiddle to Steph. So both of them want to establish their legacy and have their own team where they're the leaders of that team and they lead them to a championship.
So with that being said, I agree with a lot of what you said, Kenny. How long do they wait for Ben Simmons? If you're saying this is the year, this is the clock, how long before do you make a decision, or how long do you drag out the Ben Simmons situation if somehow mysteriously off-season workouts start, then he's still not ready? Preseason start,
he's definitely not going to be ready for off-season workouts, because they say that this is a 3 to 4 month injury. So he's not going to be back until right before training camp. So they're not going to have a choice. Like, they're going to have to wait and see in training camp to see whether or not he's going to be back healthy. So I don't think you're going to have time to make a decision. It's going to be one of those situations as to where they're going to come into training camp, and it's going to be that right then and there where they're going to have to see what he's got and see where he's at.
Okay. Definitely something to watch. For me, I give Kyrie the max. I don't believe in Ayton. I think Ayton is. I'm trying to think of a comp. I think he's maybe Valanciunas-ish. I think he's a solid big. I don't think he's a difference changer. I don't think he's a 1 or 2 on a championship team. I would not give him that money. And in his contract year, I haven't seen much that says you should give him that money. Like, way too inconsistent in big moments. You never know what you're going to get. And if I'm giving max money, I need to know that you're about to go get me 28 and 12 when I need it. And I don't see that from him. Kyrie is Kyrie. The talent is there. I agree with you, Kenny. A lot of his criticism, I think, were overblown. And I'm not going to go as far as to say it's conspiracy theory, but I also don't think it's random how many people jumped on him with the same messages that I don't think were really well thought through criticisms of him.
Yeah, because you know what's crazy? Like, they was letting players, like visitors players, not vaccinated play, but they didn't want to let Kyrie play at home games, and that's why I was like, it's backwards. How are you going to get frustrated and try to throw shots at this man where y'all mayor was pretty much the reason why Kyrie wasn't playing?
And I just saw another stat today. He is failing miserably. Crimes up. Like, this Kyrie situation was a debacle. The laying off of all the workers was a mess. Like, New York got some serious issues, and I'm not a fan of the guy. I don't live there. I didn't vote for him. I don't know him personally, but from what I've seen, he's just awful. In my personal opinion.
What you expect when a guy is? See, that's the thing I don't understand. Sports and politics doesn't go hand in hand. And for this guy to actually try to force his way into the sports world where he really didn't really have to say nothing. You know what I mean? If you laid the law down, you laid the law down. Then that was it. But for you to keep going back and forth with that guy when the guy is clearly stating his opinion and how he feels about everything, you can't get mad and go back and forth with him. And and now you took your eye off what your job was, and that was to make sure the crime and the unemployment rate doesn't go up, stuff like that.
For sure. So I have little to no problem giving Kyrie a max. I think he's still young enough. He's had enough time off. He's going to miss games. Like, he's going to miss games, but I think he can be a 2 on a winning team. I do think his game needs to evolve a bit, similar to Donovan Mitchell, similar to Luka. I think they're talented, but you got to tweak your game a little bit to be more team friendly. But I would give him the max pretty comfortably.
Well, let me ask you this, Ray, about DeAndre Ayton. Do you think that his inconsistency is more so because of the way the game is played nowadays? Like, I think he came along at the wrong time. Like, if he's around, in that era of the 90s and the early 2000s, where the big man was the centerpiece of the offense, where the offense you played inside out, where you dropped it to the big man every time down, I think he would be more productive and be more consistent. I think his inconsistency is a result of how the game is played nowadays.
I completely disagree. I think he's in the mold of a lot of the bigs today. I think his game is similar to Karl Anthony Towns, to AD, to even like a LaMarcus Aldridge. I think he has similar games to them. He's not a great outside shooter, but he has some down low game, not great, decent mid range. I just don't think he's that good. Like, I don't think he's as good as any of those players. I think his game is very similar to Bam's, but I think Bam's a better version of that style of game. So I think his game fits. I just don't think he's worked at it enough to be good enough to stretch the floor like maybe Brook Lopez or other bigs, Bobby Portis. I think they're all similar type players with skill sets. I just think he's like a worse version of all of them. And that's why I wouldn't give him the max. I think his style of play can work. It's just not good enough.
I don't think the offense give him enough touches to actually show us.
That's what I was getting at there.
To show us that he can be dominant. Because you gotta think 75.
Go ahead, I'll let you finish.
75% of the offense is Devin Booker. And then the other 15% is maybe Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, the role players, and then hopefully you have CP3 also, and then you try to fit Aiden in, because you got to remember when Chris Paul came to Phoenix, Aiden was the first to say, "You revived my career. You kind of changed my careers," because Chris Paul is not, he has that vision, that IQ to say, "Look, let me feed my big man. If my big man can get double, that leaves Devin Booker and Mikal Bridges wide open, and their game can be more smooth and efficient." But I don't think Phoenix give him enough touches to actually show that he can do it. Because I honestly think he can be dominant. He got, like you said, he got the physical skills, he got the size and everything to be a dominant player, and he got the right skills, in my opinion, because you don't want him stretching out there into the 3-point land, because that's what Karl Anthony Towns' downfall is. He falls in love with the 3-point too much that he forgets that he can dominate the inside. So
go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So I just don't think Phoenix is giving him enough touches.
But you argued against your whole point. You started off with Chris came in. We've seen what Chris has done with big men. Chris has elevated Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan, and other big men.
But how would all of those guys get the ball? Like all of those guys, all those guys that you talk about, and even in Tyson Chandler's of the world, they were always getting it off of pick and roll and lob. Right. It wasn't off of post ups. It wasn't off of any actions like that where you were getting him, any cross screens or anything like that where you were getting him, or isolation at the foul line where they do for Embiid. Like they don't do those things for DeAndre Ayton. So I think that's what the difference is.
But he's not. That was where I was getting to. He's not. They don't trust him to be that guy. And
how can you not trust him if you don't give him the opportunity?
I practice with him all the time. I see him play. I don't think there's any surprise that NBA players know who can and can't play. And if Chris Paul and Devin Booker and the team collectively is not saying we need to change our offense, like when LeBron brought AD in and said, "Hey, you got to be the guy." He hasn't proven to them he needs to be the guy. I don't know what his career high is, but at some point he should have been going out and getting 40s a couple times. And I think if he showed that, and that's why I pointed to my head, I don't think he's mentally a killer. Like, I don't think he has that mentality to demand the ball and to, if need be, get in Chris Paul's face and say, "Give me the daggone ball." Like,
I don't think he's an Embiid or anything. I believe he can be a strong number 2 if he can get those touches. Yes, I believe if you give him the right guard that can give you that Shaq and Kobe-ish, because we ain't gonna never get that type of style again, but at least a Shaq and Kobe-ish. I think Aiden can fit as that baby Shaq kind of, but you got to give him the touches.
I disagree, and I don't see him go demand the ball on the block either. But I don't think his game is built that way. Like, excuse me, what does he do great?
I think he does have some post game. Like I've seen him hit, get the ball and hit some turnarounds, on the block and hit the turnaround on the baseline. I've seen him face up. I've seen him jump hook a few times. But I think it's just one of those. To me, I think again, it's the product of today's game. Like you don't see guys get the ball with their back to the basket. Like they don't. This whole analytics and this whole the way the game is played, the style of play. They want to get threes. They want to get, you know what I'm saying? Like they want to get drives to the basket and get guys to the foul line. So you're not, because they look at Jokic. Like look how his numbers are. Look how much he's, his usage rate, or how much he has the ball in his hands and how productive he is. Like there's a reason why he's putting the numbers in. He has the ball in his hands all the time.
Kidding. Are you really comparing Ayton?
No, I'm not comparing. I'm not saying that it's two different skill sets. I'm just saying in terms of his time, he has the ball in his hands all the time. Like he's always going to get the offense. My point is that there's not going to be a possession. You're not going to go 2 or 3 possessions where Jokic doesn't touch the ball.
Because Ayton's not good enough. That's what you're not hearing. If his team trusted him and he demanded the ball, like there's a bunch of moving pieces here. There's too many great minds, in my opinion, on that Phoenix staff, all the way up to the GM, that if they felt him getting more touches gave them a better chance to win, they would implement that. And they won a record-breaking amount by not playing that way. So I don't see how he can justify saying, I need the ball more. Like, I've never seen that kind of production from him, where I've seen it from anybody that you would name that should be in that realm.
Yeah, I understand your point. I'm just saying that I think you would see my point is that I think you would see him be more consistent in terms of his output if he was a regular contributor. Oh, not a regular contributor. If he was part of the focal point of the offense. So we could just agree to disagree. I mean, because at the end of the day, like when you got a guy like Devin Booker, like he has to get his shots. And the other part is that with Ayton is that he needs help to be able to score. Like he can't score on his own. Like he has to, as a big, like you need somebody to get you the ball in order to score. So that's a part of it too.
And I agree. And I wish I could like put my screen up, because literally while you were talking about that, he caught the ball up near, like he was trying to post at the elbow on Maxi Kleber. He should be dogging Maxi Kleber. But by the time he caught the ball, he had got pushed to the 3-point line, and then the offense just ended up being a turnover. I just like, in this matchup, there's no way he shouldn't be averaging almost 30 with Dwight Powell and Maxi Kleber being the primary defenders. Like, we can talk about all this different stuff. There's no way he shouldn't be averaging almost 30. And I think that's my point. I hear you. And I think from usage rate, if anybody gets the ball a lot, the numbers will go up. If he's playing in, like Wendell Carter Jr., I like him, but he plays in Orlando. So the numbers look better.
That's my point.
If Ayton went somewhere else, would he have better numbers? Yes, but they'd be a terrible team. If he's going to be on a winning team, he's not going to be the second best player. I don't see that. And if Phoenix needs him to be, they're not going nowhere, because I just don't trust him enough. But he can make me out to be a liar, and I'd love to be wrong.
That's what he's gonna have to do. That's what it sounds like he's gonna have to do. He's gonna have to kind of show you better than recent stats been shown for him.
And for me, I think I picked them to go far in the NCAA tournament, and they went out, I think, in like the second round.
Oh, that's where it is.
So he got some hurt.
You been down on him since college. That's what this
is. Oh, you got hurt. You got some hurt behind these stats.
Yeah, now the truth comes out.
I'm simply saying I've been following him for a while, and he's been coming up small for a long time.
So was you a fan back then?
Like I said, I'm still a fan. I think he's good. I just don't think he's a max player, and I don't think he's one of those guys. Okay. I think he's like top 15. But I wouldn't give him max money. Like for me personally, outside of health, I would give Cousins more money than I would give Ayton a day, because I know what I'm going to get if he could just stay healthy. Like he dominated in that Warriors series when he got a chance to run. If he could stay healthy and get in shape, I think he's a better for the next 2 to 3 years, I think Cousins would be better in Phoenix than.
If we talking about prime Boogie, yeah,
I don't know. This Boogie
I'm
today
with
is
you,
still
but
Boogie in.
Boogie now,
I'm not sure.
All right.
nah,
And I love Boogie.
because like Kenny said, the way bigs are not being used now, but Boogie doesn't really fit. He's almost like a taller Zach Randolph. You know what I mean? And
The
if
Boogie,
you
I'm telling you, the right team, he can work. I bet
What's
Golden
the right
State wish
team?
they had him over Wiseman right now.
So
most definitely, yeah. At least right now in the playoffs, so you can not get out rebound by Steven Adams. Yeah,
That's what I'm talking about.
yeah. But Boogie over Aiden.
I'm taking
If
Boogie.
it ain't prime Boogie, I don't want him.
yeah,
No
that's
disrespect to
the
him.
only- Yeah, that's
Quick
the
up.
only. Yeah,
Go
I'm
ahead.
only taking prime Boogie over Aiden.
I think y'all overrating Nathan, but that's just me. Dallas is now up 9. And it is just a mess. Chris Paul just turned it over, and you can make it.
That's a take foul.
oh,
Take foul.
I hate that. That should be
Yeah.
clear path, though. I think he
Take
was
foul.
ahead. I think he might have been clear, so we'll see if they review it. But that I really hope they address that because I hate that take foul crap. Like I watched, whatchamacallit, who took it? Maxey took one with like 2 seconds left in the first half. Like, Jimmy Butler in that court. Like, what are you doing? Like, just intelligent sometimes. So we talked about Ayton a lot and how I feel about him. So Jokic and Patrick Beverly said this, and we'll start with that and we'll go to the next part. He said he believes Jokic on NBA Live, whatever the show is on ESPN, is a top 6 big man all time. I don't know if I would go that high yet, but 2 MVPs puts you in rare air when you look at big men. So the question is, where do you rank Jokic after this MVP all time? Just quickly. And 2, can you win a title building around Jokic? Because to this point, we haven't seen much playoff success, even with a historic Jamal Murray run. I'll start with you, Kenny.
Definitely that back-to-back MVP is definitely going to put you, up there in terms of, the all-time players. But just off the top of my head, I'm going Shaq, Wilt, Kareem, Olajuwon. Who else? I'd probably even put Ewing.
I was going to ask you that as a Knick guy.
Yeah, I probably would even put Ewing because of
Lonzo Mourning.
Yeah,
y'all taking Ewing and Mourning over Jokic?
I'm not sure if I'm taking Mourning over Jokic because I think
you mean back iron Ewing. You taking back iron Ewing over Jokic?
Defensively and rebounding wise, like I get it
Have
as
you seen Jokic rebound.
Jokic rebound went down though. He went down this year from last year.
Went down to what?
I think that even rebounding.
I think he was.
I think defensively it's not even close. And I would give you offensively, I would give him the edge because of the passing.
So you don't give the Mason boys and those people any credit for helping Ewing's defense?
Yeah.
No, because he was the anchor. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, those guys, in terms of the physicality, that definitely helped. But he was also the anchor.
But Jokic is 10 times the passer Ewing was.
I'll give you that. But I'm just talking about defensively.
So do we consider Barkley as a big man too?
No, not as a center.
6'5".
Yeah, not
He's
as a center.
powerful, but he wasn't.
Yeah, not as a center. So
because Jokic's not really a center because Jokic got drafted as a power forward.
Jokic is a center.
Yeah, he's a center. And I would probably even put Tim Duncan. I probably would take Tim Duncan. To me, Tim Duncan is more of a center.
So if we go, you said Hakeem, Kareem, Wilt, Shaq, Bill Russell.
I didn't really see Bill Russell, so
all right, so we'll leave.
I didn't really see Wilt either, but those numbers are just hard to.
I don't know. Was Shaq in that? I don't think Shaq was in that 5.
Yeah, he was in there.
And so who else we got?
Sabonis.
Nah.
Don't
Not
do
Sabonis. Well, not if we saw to Sabonis in his prime, then maybe.
Yeah, I
Like,
would agree to say now overseas Sabonis before he came to the
yeah,
NBA.
yeah,
that.
maybe.
Okay,
But
well, we no.
All right, what about Kevin Garnett?
to me, he's a 4 too.
For
But he was still counted as a big man.
Oh, and another dude I'll put over him, Moses Malone. I'm putting Moses Malone before him.
All right, I'll give you. I go 5.
Yeah, so he would be like in that next tier though. He's definitely in that next tier because, like you said, like to me, he's basically Sabonis 2.0. Like he has all of those skill sets that Sabonis had, and we're seeing him do this now in his prime. So we're seeing like a prime version of Arvydas Sabonis here. So it's definitely no question. Now Rodman's a 4.
Rodman's not a.
He's not a real big man to me.
He's a 4. Yeah,
Pittman's not. He was a 3.
Yeah.
Oh, he's just naming players. We're only talking about big men, just big men.
Yeah, so I think he definitely does go into that second tier, no question. But I think we got to see if with the healthy. I think the question is to be answered or to be determined. I should say. I think you got to see with the healthy Porter Jr., assuming that he's gonna be healthy again, and a healthy Jamal Murray. Because to be fair, they did make a run, that year in the bubble. So you got to give them a full year together and see if they can make another run before we can say whether or not you can win with Jokic as your number 1. At least that's my opinion.
Devin?
Piggyback off of Kenny, Jokic would be like in my second tier of big men. Also, like I said, I think Embiid should have been MVP this year. I've seen a couple stats that dropped down for Jokic. His assist dropped down this year. His free throw dropped down this year. And we were just stating that he's the like a ball dominant big man, and they was pretty much putting everything into Jokic. I believe you can build a team around Jokic and you can get deep. I'm not gonna say that Jokic is a big man that will be like a Rudy Gobert, that you not gonna go nowhere with Rudy Gobert, in my opinion. Jokic is way beyond Rudy Gobert, and I believe with the right timing and the right team, if healthy, like Kenny said, we can see Denver fighting for a Western Conference championship and possibly in the finals. And we can finally see if Jokic's ready for a big stage. And I honestly, you will see a Jokic being in the championship before you see a Karl-Anthony Towns, in my opinion. So I think because I don't think you can really build the team around Karl-Anthony Towns, per se, because I think
they very well should have beat Memphis this year.
They could have, like I say, but I don't think it was fully Karl-Anthony Towns. I think Anthony Edwards was the stud in that series, and I believe with some more growth with him, I think he's the X factor of changing that series, in my opinion. I think if Anthony Edwards was maybe in his 3rd year and been to the playoff maybe about his second time or something of that nature, I think he could have pulled something out his hat and beat Ja and them. But as far as Karl-Anthony Towns, you didn't have Jimmy Butler there, you didn't have Andrew Wiggins there, you got D'Angelo Russell here there now, and you never went deep with him. Where you had Jokic, you almost kind of guaranteed that you're making a playoff. It's just how deep are you making the playoffs with Jokic, depending on the health and what team you give him. So I think Jokic is a good player, and I do see somebody or Denver at least building around him, and he possibly can make one finals appearance before his career is said and done.
Okay. Quick update, and this has just been a disaster end to the half for Phoenix. They're now down 17. Chris Paul couple turnovers, just a really sloppy finish. And Bullock and them boys is shooting again. He's 3 of 7 in the first half from
There you
3.
go.
I'm glad I ain't bet this game then. I'd have been asked out.
So obviously a big difference. 10 of 24 right now from 3 for Dallas versus 3 of 7 from Phoenix. So Bridges and others. Bridges has 4. Cam Johnson has 4. Chris Paul has 5. Booker at 8. Ayton does have 10, but they're down. Looks like they're going to be down about 15. So a lot of work to be done on that capacity. I think Jokic is phenomenal. I do, but I don't think he can be your best player on a championship team. I think he'd be a phenomenal number 2. If he went to Dallas, like I think him and Luka could do great things for a really long time. I think he needs a really good ball handler to allow him to reach his full potential. I think he's great with the ball in his hands, but I think his usage rate is too high for the condition that he's in. So I
Jamal
think
Murray's supposed to come in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't know what he's going to be when he comes back. He's been out for 2 years now?
No, he just missed his full season.
Yeah, he only missed his full season and half of last season.
Okay. Seems like longer than that. And he was cleared to come back this year.
I think they just pacing him. You know, they don't want to aggravate or have any setback. Or they might be just waiting for MPJ Michael Porter Jr. to come back.
I think I think he was just using extra precaution. I think he looked at the Derrick.
They wasn't going nowhere.
Exactly, and I think they looked at looked at the situation like a Derrick Rose and guys like that, and he just wanted to give himself extra time to make sure that he was 100%.
Okay, we'll see. Hopefully next year we can get. Obviously, there's always injuries, but hopefully, for what it's worth, I would like to see him with his full complement of players. The West definitely could be winnable next year. So we'll see what this offseason brings. But speaking of offseason, Tom Brady has had quite the offseason. He retired for a month. He came back, got some new money, got his coach fired, brought in a new coach. Was rumored to be facilitating Sean Payton to Miami, and then he was going to be given part ownership. And when all that fell through, Fox was like, we'll give you $375 million to do a job we've never seen you do. So what a life it has been for Tom Brady. And he has a lot more to go, apparently. But as somebody, like we do this, we talk, we do it because we love it. When you see that, and you look at what Romo's got, the money he got, what Aikman got, what these commentators are getting, like, what is happening? What are we missing? Because if football is as great of a game as it is, why do you have to pay these people this much? That's why you don't get paid to perform at the Super Bowl, because it's the Super Bowl. So just curious your thoughts on all this money that they're giving these people. Marshawn apparently was supposed to get a bunch of money from Amazon. Like, these are baseball and quarterback contracts for commentators. Devin, what's going on, man?
I think we missed our call. I think we all should have at least paid in the NFL. You know what I mean? Because it shows that you don't have to be great in the league, or you can be great in the league and you still going to make out. But woof, I wish I was Tom Brady, boy. Sitting, ain't never show a lick of resume of anything that I can commentate, that I can show you, that I can give you good ratings or anything in this nature. Because you just seen how Fox don't have Troy Aikman, or Joe Buck, and none of them. They all went to ESPN Monday night, and we don't know when Tom Brady's going to retire. Like, for that man just to say, like, oh, I'm gonna keep on playing until I'm 50, or I'm gonna keep on playing until somebody break me, or anything in this nature, for him to sit and have a backup plan with that much money that you probably made you gonna make way more than your whole NFL career. Wow, I think we missed our calling, fellas.
For me, and Kenny, real quick, the part
Okay.
to me that's crazy is what kind of mindset do you have to be in to know that you have 10 years, 375 million there, and you're like, just hold it for me. I still want to play. Like, I can't think about what are you doing? Like, that's a no-brainer. And obviously we would never want to risk injury or anything. But God forbid something was to happen and he couldn't speak as well or anything like that. Why would you risk that much money?
I think if Tom Brady can do sign language, he will still get paid that much money.
That to me is really the crazy part is he's willing to, in essence, turn that down to play quarterback.
No, the dude loves the dude loves to play. The dude loves the game. Like, bro, he don't even want to spend time with he don't even want to spend time with his family, man.
His wife has been begging him to come home.
That's what I'm telling you.
And
like,
he's willing to turn down $400 million.
That's to tell you everything you need to know. We've all
like how
seen.
awful are his kids and wife? There's no way you can offer me that much money to spend more time with my kids.
The dude loves this game more than this. Clearly, he is obsessed with the game of football. Like the man eating avocado ice cream. Like he 40, he pushing, trying to push 50 years old playing in this league. The guy can't get enough of the game. He's clearly addicted to the game. He's addicted to the NFL. Like he's like a junkie.
I think he's addicted to the stats. I think he's just trying to pad them stats where nobody gonna touch his name ever. You know what I mean? It's gonna take forever for you to touch his stats. Yeah, I think that's what he's doing.
But I think the other part of it is that this was a desperation move by Fox. Like, so, losing, like to Devin's point, losing Joe Buck, losing your number one, commentating team. Like this is a desperation move where you had to make a splash. And I think that they thought that this was the only way that they could make a splash like this after losing Joe Buck and Troy Aikman.
But he's not even coming this year.
I know, that's the whole point. Like they had to lock him in to make sure that he wasn't going to get to another network.
Now that, and how would it feel if you were just to say, Fox would call you, Ray, and say, "Hey man, for the next 10 years, you're gonna be working side by side with Tom Brady, but you just gotta wait till he retires." What are you going to say?
Yes.
Right. See, just by you saying yes, that means everybody in the world is going to say yes to be like, as soon as Tom Brady gets to that booth, yes, I want to work with him. Who don't want to work with arguably the greatest football mind of all time? Well, at least one of them. You're going to say yes. So that's what Fox did. They said, hey, Tom Brady is our shiny trophy guy. So whenever these new commentators or whoever wants to sign on with Fox, just know that potentially you can work with Tom Brady.
Because they lost Herb Street too, didn't they? Didn't he go somewhere?
I believe so. They lost a lot of commentators this year.
Herb Street was at ESPN though.
I thought he did Fox College because he was on with Jenny and them for FS1. Or maybe he did both. Or I don't know. You might be a College Game that might just be on ESPN.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of who was on Fox. I thought he was at those games, but I could be wrong. But before we wrap, we definitely got to get into a huge fight this weekend. A lot of implications, a rematch. A lot of people feel like Charlo might have lost the last fight to Castaño.
It was close.
I can't argue much against it. But huge fight. Definitely would set up a huge following payday, assuming somebody wins and there's no draw. Who do y'all got? You think Charlo gets it done? He's saying a lot of the right things, but Castaño ain't no slump. So
it ain't no slump, but I think Charlo gets it done. I think he realizes once he get him out the way that everything is gonna be big fights and big payday for him, and that's the only way he can get it if he get rid of Casino. So I think Charlo pulled this one out.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's going to make a statement. I think he's going to want to make a statement because in that last fight, like you said, it was really close. But he landed the harder punches. Like he, I think Castano was getting points for being a busier fighter, but he was landing effective in the harder punches. So I think, and we did see him hurt Castano in the later rounds. So I think that he's going to want to I think he's going to make a statement here, and he's going to get him out of here. He's going to get him out of there, and I think he's going to get him out of there within 6 rounds.
Ooh, 6?
Yeah, I think he's going to I think he's coming out here to make a statement, like to make sure that everybody know that first fight wasn't as close as it seemed. I started out slow, and he banked some rounds, and I think he's going to get this guy out of here to let him know. Don't give him any hope of being able to try to hang in this fight.
I was saying 8. I didn't say 6, but I was saying 8.
Okay.
Wow. I think it goes the distance, to be honest. I think Charlo, the danger I've seen in him is he'll wait for that shot to make a statement. And that's how you lose rounds. And I think he had to learn a lesson fighting Tony Harrison the first time. I think it caught up to him. And I think he was going down the same road until he caught Harrison in the second fight. So I don't know. It's a lot of belts on the line, but we will see. Obviously I'm rooting for him, and I think it'd be much more beneficial to get him out of there. I think that would make a huge statement. I just don't know. I don't know if he gets him out of there. I think Castaño's better than that. One of the undercards I'm excited about, Boots Ennis, big fan of his. Clayton's not really. I don't think that goes long. I do hope that Ennis can really step up in competition before the end of the year, whether it be a Garcia, a Thurman, somebody on that tier that's not obviously the 2 at 147. But I think Sean Porter's retired. Pacquiao's out.
Yeah. I think he'd get Thurman before he'd get a Garcia.
Yeah, I'd like to. Yeah, I like a Garcia or either one of those guys. But I think Garcia would probably be the more logical next step because I think he's at this point. I think Garcia is more of a gatekeeper. He's not really a contender like he was a few years back. So I think probably more of the logical next step for Boots. But I love his fighting style. I love his speed. I love his ring generalship. So I'll definitely be watching that fight as well.
Okay, I was looking at. Looks like I think ESPN has him at number 3, which I think is right. I don't know if he will have the luxury of fighting the winner of if we ever get Spence or Crawford. I would obviously say if that fight doesn't get made, I don't know who else one of those guys would fight, but I think Ennis would be the next best option for either of them. But
that fight ain't gonna get made.
There's no reason it shouldn't get made.
I think it will. That's the only fight left for those two guys. And then now that Crawford is not with Top Rank, I don't think that there's any excuse now for the fight not to happen.
Agreed.
I hope so, Kenny, because I've been waiting for this fight for years, man.
I'm with you. Everybody's been waiting for this one.
I think this will probably be the best pay-per-view match in a long time.
Absolutely.
For sure. So hopefully I heard a bunch of trash talk. I haven't heard a bunch of negotiation. Another one I wouldn't mind seeing in this fight if he wins would be Ugas. I think we saw what Spence did to him. I think that would be a nice step up for
he made a good showing of himself.
Most definitely.
So there's fights for him, but take care of business and go from there. But I'm definitely gonna be tuned in and I'm excited.
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna be tuned in also.
No doubt.
Excuse me. All right. Well, the last thing I got for y'all is Floyd Mayweather is also fighting. I believe it's this weekend. He's fighting somebody nobody knows. He's going to get a couple $1 million for it because that's what Floyd does. Is this celebrity style boxing good for boxing, Devin?
That's what it is to me. Man, come, like why? We already know Floyd is Floyd. We know we seen his last exhibition fight when he fought one of the Paul brothers, and he looked at all right, but honestly, I'm done watching Floyd fights. I'm gonna watch it just because it's him. But to make a big statement or a big noise about Floyd fights now, I'm not really baiting and buying into it. Really. You know what I mean? It's just.
That's hilarious. No, I'm with. I'm not, as long Floyd, get your money, but you're not getting my money. Like these exhibitions and things, things like that. Go right ahead. As long as you're not putting yourself in any danger and you're getting your money, go right ahead. More power to you, but you're not getting my money. Like I'm with Devin. I'm done. We've seen the best of Floyd. That ship has sailed. It's on to the new guys.
No, I agree. I love Floyd. It's Don Moore is who he's fighting. I don't even really have interest in watching this fight. I ain't gonna lie to y'all.
That sounds like a dude off the street.
I'll catch the highlight. I'm good.
I was trying to see when because I know it's in Dubai, so the timing will probably be weird for us.
See, then it's like on the richest place on the planet. So nah, man, nobody ain't got that. That means the damn pay-per-view is probably gonna be $100 for you to watch.
Yeah.
Apparently, there's world's first NFT pay-per-view event. So I don't even know how that works.
That's cool. I like the innovation and things like that. But yeah, I'm good on that.
Put it like this: for Floyd, if you want to do all that, you might as well go and put that money to get the Spence and Crawford fight and have those guys fight. Then I'll go ahead and tune in. But to watch him fight, I'm not really looking. Not interested. I don't care where you at. You can be in my living room, man. I don't think I'm still not going to watch it.
Oh, man. Well, we will definitely catch up on Monday, figure out what happens in this Phoenix game, figure out if Golden State can close them out. We'll be covering all that on Monday, as well as some of the fights from the weekend, barring any surprises. Tune in Monday at 9. I appreciate y'all bearing with me. As you can see, I'm a little under the weather, been fighting through it, but appreciate my guys for helping carry us through. Y'all have a great evening and have a great weekend. We are out, and we will see you here soon. Take care.
Whole sports all plays. Yeah. Whole sports all plays. Whole sports all plays.